you don't know, is Dustin Bino. I'm chairman of Northern Grafton County Democrats, and I'm also a state senate candidate this year for District 5. I'm going to introduce all the other candidates that we have here tonight, and I'm going to hand it over to Cinde. First, we have Jared Sullivan, who's running for District 2. Joe Julio, and then we have Tim Egan, both running for District 1. Kathy?
Dustin, tell them what District 1 is.
District 1 is from Monroe all the way over to Littleton and then down to Sugar Hill.
But it's not a primary.
Not primary.
not a primary.
3 total seats. The other person that's running is Linda Massimillo as well. So. Then we have Kathleen Fountain, who's running for State Senate. And one of our county level candidates, Bree Choate, is running for Register of Deeds. I just want to say thank you everybody for coming, and for our guest of honor tonight, may I introduce Cinde Warmington.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. I can't stand the fact that some people are still waiting for pizza. Whenever the pizza comes.
They'll be right back.
All right. I'm so glad to be with you all tonight. As you all know, I am running for governor, and we have a great race on our hands. If you haven't seen the latest UNH poll, this race is now a 5-point race. Closing the gap on Kelly, and she knows it. We are breathing down her neck, and we are ready for this fight. So I will tell you, everywhere that I go across the state, people are revved up and ready to go. Mostly, they are so fed up with where we are right now as a country and as a state. People are just sick and tired of it. Sick and tired of the corruption, the chaos, the cruelty, the cost of everything. And let me tell you kind of just a few examples of what that translates into in the field for me. Just 2 days ago, I met a nurse who moved here from another state and said, when I came here, I didn't understand it, but I was told there's 2 kinds of people in New Hampshire, the kind with 2 houses and the kind with 2 jobs. I mean, but it's a reality. Right? I'm talking to a young family that just bought their first home. They're in their early 40s, and just so everyone's clear, 40 is now the average age to buy a first home. That is very late. A lot of years of not building equity. I was so happy for them that they had bought their first home. And then they told me that they cashed in his 401k to do it. Talking to a young couple who wants to have another child but can't afford childcare, doesn't even know if they could find the childcare. Talking to a doctor who is so anxious about the patients that he's treating that are going to or have lost their health care, and how much pain and devastation that's causing. Gave me an example of an elderly man who's living on $1,400 a month Social Security check in manufactured housing. He's on oxygen, and he will now have to pay Kelly's Medicaid premiums. There is no money left in that $1,400 a month budget to pay those premiums, and he will likely be without care. And as the doctor says, people will die. This is real, what's happening in our state right now. And every single day, Kelly Ayotte makes it worse. I personally know what it's like to have to work to make ends meet, to worry about whether you can pay the bills. I was financially independent at age 17. I had to figure out how to put a roof over my head, how to feed myself, how to put gas in that clunky old car I was driving, and how to pay for the college education that I desperately wanted, that no one else in my family had 2 jobs. I was a phlebotomist at hospitals and nursing homes, and I was able to work 30 hours a week and pay my way through school. So, as I tell people out there, if necessary, I can draw blood. But here's the thing, my story's not remarkable. It was the reality of the time that if you went to work and you worked hard, you could do it. You could build a better life for yourself and for your family. You could find a way. Today, a kid in my situation, they would never get that college education. They would never get that chance to get ahead. The American dream has been taken away. We have an economy that is working for billionaires and not for the people of our state. And that's the difference between Kelly and me. She cares about them, and I care about us, all of us. And we need to get to work. A lot of people say that Kelly is an absentee governor, and it's true. Look at the issues of the day. She's been totally absent on housing. She's been absent on child care. She's been absent on electricity prices. But I gotta tell you, I think the days that Kelly is absent are her best days. I wish that Kelly were absent on the day that she lifted the cap on those education vouchers that are not only jacking up your property taxes and destroying our public schools and taking away the shot at the future that every kid in our state deserves. And I wish that she were absent on the day that she decided to punish the most vulnerable people in our state by putting in these cruel Medicaid premiums and doubling the cost of co-pays on their prescription drugs on the poorest people in our state. And I wish that she had stayed home on the day that she decided she would make it harder for students to vote, the day she decided to appeal the law that is making it harder for women to vote. She is doing Trump's bidding every single day. She is making it harder for Granite Staters. And just look at what she has done to the children of our state. The most obvious example is what's going on at that Cinde Youth Center. We are talking 4 months today since those first reports came in that we had those kids are suffering the kind of abuse that they've been suffering for decades in there. And she has done absolutely nothing to stop it. The fact that this is going on her watch, the fact that she is doing nothing, this is what we need to tell everybody. She just vetoed the transportation plan in our state, all putting politics ahead of people. We need someone who's going to get in here and govern as executive counselor. I know what that means, right? 4 years on the executive council is 4 years of on-the-job training to be governor. I know every single agency in the state. I know every single commission. I know what programs are working. I know what programs are not working. And I know how to bring people together to fix them. That's what I did as an executive counselor. That's what I will do. I know how to stand up to people that I disagree with. Remember, I was the only Democrat on the executive council for 4 years, putting on my battle gear to go in there and with a spine of steel, knowing when to stand our ground and knowing when we can find the common ground. That's what we need in our state. That's what we need in our state house. And we can do this. It is a 5-point race, as I said. Kelly Ayotte's favorability ratings are the lowest of any first-term governor in more than 30 years since they started keeping track. So, for all of you who remember, that means Kelly Ayotte's approval ratings are lower than Craig Benson's at this point in his administration. We have a real opportunity, and when we see so happy to be in this race with all of you. I can't do this alone. We can't take back the Senate or the House or the Executive Council alone. We can do this together. And I appreciate everything that all of you are doing. I hope you'll join me on this journey. I'm joining you on this journey. Thanks all. Happy to take questions, if that's okay.
Oh, that's absolutely fine. Just make sure we only have one mic tonight, so with your questions, just speak loudly for the phone back there recording the video.
And I'll try to repeat.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chandler.
I have been and am a local elected official. I am very concerned with the legislature and what has happened in the downshifting of cost because to the local tax base. The property tax burden in small towns, and I come from a very small town, is backbreaking right now. What can you do as governor to make sure that the shift to the local tax base stops and the state of New Hampshire starts to do what the courts have told it to do for over 30 years, particularly in the case of education?
Yes, so everybody hear the question? The question is about how we're gonna stop the downshifting. What can I do as governor? So let me just set the stage for this so everybody here understands. The reason your property taxes are going up is because they wanted your property taxes to go up. This education scheme that they have underway has been going on for years now, and the plan from the beginning was to drive up your property taxes to the point that you would say, we cannot afford to fund public schools. That was the plan all along. The first day I was on the Executive Council, they brought $46 million of charter school funding designed to siphon kids away from our public schools. They changed the way they were distributing the building and aid money. They changed the way the ESSER funds were being distributed. They put in the education voucher plan. Now they lifted the cap on the education voucher plan. Now they've made it even easier to homeschool your children with no accountability. Now she's got her double dipping plan, which we can talk about, which allows kids who are taking their voucher to also go to public school, and the public schools can't charge for it. All of it, the whole scheme, was intended to drive up your property taxes so that you would say, we can't afford to fund our public schools. That was the goal from the beginning. They don't believe in public schools. And they have finally said the quiet part out loud. There are representatives now saying it in the legislature. Kelly Ayotte is in court arguing right now before our Supreme Court to overturn the Claremont decision. That is the decision that says that we have a constitutional obligation to provide our kids with an adequate education. Why are they doing that? This is all part of the plan. They don't believe in public education. That's why your property taxes are going through the roof. It was the plan all along. So we need to do away with all of this scheme. We have to undermine this complete scheme. We have to take back the $100 million they're giving away in vouchers. We have to reverse all of these outrageous policies that are designed to undermine our public schools and send up your property taxes. Start there. You get to another point, which is there's a lot of downshifting that happens. Nobody in Concord seems to understand that when they go through their finance committee, their evaluation, they never seem to understand that sometimes bills almost always transfer wealth in one direction or another. They don't look at the bill to see if the property taxpayers are being given the shaft once again. For instance, when Kelly cuts the Medicaid budget, that balances her budget at the State House, right? But when you cut that budget, you're going to cut the nursing home budget. Who do you think is going to pay that deficit? Property taxpayers through their county taxes, right? This happens every single day in Concord. There are bills that they put through and cuts that they put through in their budget that balance their side of the ledger but hand you the bill. That is my commitment as governor, is that stops here. No bills come to me that are downshifting unless they come with money attached to them to pay for that, whatever that expenditure is. No unfunded mandates.
Thank you.
Nancy?
Cindy, just following up on that, it seems to me that what Republican administration has done is turned off to all the funding spigots that we had. You know, just business taxes, all the things that they're cutting back on. So what are your ideas for either restoring them or other types of funding so that the state's budget improves?
Yeah, so fundamentally, the problem you're getting at is income inequality. Tax policy is a way of redistributing wealth, right? It's one of the policies. There are a lot of arrows in our quiver besides broad-based taxes, okay? And the public has spoken quite clearly that they do not want a broad-based tax. I will not put in a broad-based tax. I will veto a broad-based tax if it should come to my desk. The other arrows in the quiver are important. It was unions and the GI Bill that brought us the middle class in the first place. It is unions that will bring us back. We need to get our feet off the throats of those unions, allow them to organize, to collectively bargain, stop putting obstacles in their way, and be behind putting more money in the pockets of working people. Minimum wage is another policy we need to do. Going after private equity, which Kelly Ayotte will never do because her millions are made in Blackstone. She's all in private equity. Those people that call me at least once a week asking me if I want to sell my house, this is all private equity coming to our state. It will ultimately jack up the cost of housing for so many people. We need to stop that. Policies against monopolies. There are a lot of arrows in our quiver. Also, we have an entire industry that would love to come here and do business here in the clean energy economy that these Republicans just keep out because of their addiction to fossil fuels. We need to make sure that we legalize cannabis, for instance, and stop sending our tax dollars over across the borders in every direction. There's millions and millions of dollars there, and we need to return that $100 million that they've taken out of our education trust back into our state. That's where we start. That's where we start building back an economy. And I have been talking to governors and former governors all across this country that have faced economic crises much worse than what we're facing in New Hampshire. People who had to rebuild their economy from a completely collapsed auto industry, for example. So Michigan, Kentucky, Kansas, Maryland, people that have faced economic crises, and every one of them has said to me, to think that you have to raise taxes to do this is a failure of imagination. We're not going to fail of imagination in this administration. We'll be rolling up our sleeves and get to work. And I'm somebody that actually knows how government works and can make it work for the people.
Yeah, so in my district, Franconia, that one, Franconia already lost their ambulance, and they're now like contracted with to do it. I know that Warren, I think, just lost theirs. Berlin just had their shut their town and go to the fire department. One of the problems is obviously that big fuel bill, or big bill, or they want to call it, Washington, but also in the bill that Kelly signed, the budget Kelly signed, they cut Medicaid reimbursement by about 60%. And so, I think it's an important message to get out there that what happens up here matters to people who live in Concord and Manchester, Nashville, because when they come up here and go hiking our mountains, or skiing our mountains, or floating on our rivers, if they have a medical emergency, they expect an ambulance to be there. That's when I'm Laconia, between the two of them, 30,000 people. But the population of those two towns, which is all 15,000 on the weekend, you don't have the infrastructure for that. We don't have the tax base to fund it. So at some level we need to claw back some of these things. And that's something I'm just trying to bring to your awareness, which you weren't aware of, but it's definitely something that we need to make sure that small
So I know healthcare, and this is an issue that has been important to me for a long time. I convened a roundtable up at Littleton Hospital a couple of years ago with Senator Sue Prentice. We've been working on that issue to increase the funding. One of the biggest problems with ambulance funding in the state is that the private payers have been screwing the state of New Hampshire on their reimbursement, and other administrations are simply unwilling to hold their feet to the fire on this. They pay more for the same ambulance call in other states, surrounding states, than they pay here, by a long shot. And part of that is because of the way we're funding our ambulances through the property taxes. They're relying on that, and they're simply paying us less than they need to. We need to be after that. We need to be focused on that issue. We need to restore those Medicaid cuts. I absolutely agree with you. When I was up at the hospital, they literally were saying to me that we'll have a patient in the emergency room who needs an emergency transfer, and they may be waiting up to 12 hours for an emergency transfer, and then said to us, people die because of this. This is unacceptable in the richest country in the history of the world. I know healthcare, this is an issue that has been very important to me. I actually got additional funding to try to save Warren, and we did keep it alive for a little bit longer. But it's an important issue. It's one that I know very, very well. It will be a priority for me. Yes.
Hi, thanks. Good question. I also have a medical background. I was a pharmacy tech in
I'm sorry.
I was a pharmacy tech for many years, so I understand coming up from that piece. The bigger question that's come up, at least the voters I've talked to in this area, have been the issue involving no access to start meth from Medicaid, and from Medicaid examples
Yes.
for Humana. Because we're essentially single contract bound in the state.
Is this because of the Medicare
That's correct.
Advantage plan? Yeah.
So, as governor, that's something you would essentially ask the executive council to actually pay attention to and actually get through that significant part of the decision you can use the state hospital.
Yeah. I mean, truthfully, the healthcare issues that are facing our country and our state are huge. And a lot of this is federal. But there are things that we can and should be doing in our state. For one, we should be encouraging mid-levels to be here. We should be helping with the tuition reimbursement, that program, encouraging people to be in our providers to be in our rural communities. We should encourage mid-levels to be practicing to the full extent of their licenses and not trying to put restrictions on them. We should be expanding telehealth. That is it's a huge tool to get good health care into communities, and focusing in on primary care and the services that people need here. And these are, it is a comprehensive problem, and part of it is dealing with the Department of Insurance, who is led by
Thank you.
Commissioner Betancourt. Need I say more? All right. Tim.
Cinde, I teach at Vermont State, and I always get this comment to people about your state is one of the worst funded state college systems in the country. If we're trying to get young people to move here, to build a workforce, what can we do to sort of reinvigorate any type of revenue generation, assistance programs? Our students that live in the state have the highest amount of debt that they've ever had for college funding. Gilead cut $40–50 million from the state college budget. It's the only place where we build the future, right? We take our students and we say we want them to stay here and be taxpayers. We want to send them, to a good school, or we want folks to move here, and enjoy the quality of life. How do we approach public funding for state colleges and community colleges?
Yeah, let's not be dead last in funding our institutions of higher education. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's to the point now where a student can go and pay out-of-state tuition in another state is less than paying in-state tuition in New Hampshire. And so we're chasing our young people out of the state. We don't get them back. They develop those relationships, those business, they do their internships there as they go, and they don't come back to us. We need to be focusing, as you say, you have dollars, right? And the quality of the road is gonna go down. She doesn't care. It's a kick the can. It won't be her problem. Not funding the lawsuits, the settlement fund for these kids that were abused at the Cinde Youth Center. This means they're all gonna have to go to court. Those cases aren't gonna settle for 2 or 3, 4 years, right? So that's not gonna be her problem. It's a kick the can. It's the same thing with what she's doing with higher education. Let's just roll up our sleeves and actually solve problems in this state.
What is the transportation plan, the deal? Is that the 10-year?
Yes, the 10-year highway plan. It's been vetoed Friday afternoon.
But in one sense, it should have been vetoed because there were no new projects this year. Did she say there was too much in it?
She vetoed it because it would have resulted in a toll increase for out-of-staters coming to our state.
Oh, so that's the.
That was the
My
reason.
other question was, she vetoed a toll increase.
For out-of-staters.
Yeah. We should have a toll increase for in-staters. The toll road should be extended through Concord. And then the funds from tolls could pay for work on the roads.
Yeah, this was a really great and bipartisan plan, this toll increase for out-of-staters. By the way, we pay those increase in tolls when we're out-of-staters, we pay them. Kelly vetoed that whole transportation plan, which is, I mean, countless hours and hours of work. Bipartisan work from the Executive Council, the House, the Senate, and then she vetoes the entire thing. We're gonna lose like a construction season. We lose $250 million of toll credits that can be used for matching for other projects. We lose the projects that that are in the works. It is a reckless, irresponsible, political, theater. That's really all it is.
I'm on the Transportation Advisory Committee for North Country Council. And it's worse than what you say, because the DOT is forced to have no new projects in the 10-year plan. The way this was done, you put in studies to justify projects that will be going on 8, 9, 10 years from now. The projects currently were approved in the past. And the reason is the committees spend hours, and the North Country Council spends many hours putting together recommendations as to which project. Is it Route 2, or is it going to be someplace in Berlin, or what are the projects that will be approved? And there's zero, as I understood, zero for the new 10-year plan, in the expectation that it won't be even studied for the next time.
Yeah.
And it's because of the Republicans in
It's
Congress.
very clear when you, the Executive Council does the 10-year transportation. So I've been through the process twice as an executive counselor. And it's very clear what will happen to the quality of our roads in the state over the next several years because of this. And trust me, I know every troublesome intersection in the state of New Hampshire. I've been through these hearings, 25, 28 hearings every single time. It's a lot of work. It's just really good government. It has never been political. I went out of my way never to politicize it as an executive counselor. It is not political. It is just plain government working for the people and people getting together and putting together a transportation plan that works for our state, our whole state. And this veto is just reckless.
So just what happens now?
Well, I suppose we expect, because there is bipartisan outrage about this, that she may be overridden whenever they have veto day, but that will be some time from now, and we will lose some opportunities in this construction season and jobs.
Cindy, I just want to warn you that data mining is going to come up, and it's going to be another issue, and it's being discussed in Littleton. For the people that don't know data mining, we had a bill last year data mine buildings, any place, and with no town or state oversight. This came out of the Republican leadership in the House, otherwise known as free state.
Yeah. Let's
And
be
that's a
clear.
real problem, but it's gonna come up and it's being discussed in Littleton now.
So I am leading on this subject. Nottingham had this issue.
Right.
And I've been leading on this issue from day one. I mean, we need to make sure that we have guardrails around these projects. There's local control around these projects, that we can take a pause. I've called for a moratorium to take a pause to make sure that we've evaluated things like how much water this facility is going to use and what it will do to the water supply of the neighboring properties, reservoirs, what it will do to the electricity rates. It typically sends electricity rates skyrocketing in communities where they are located. And what kind of noise it puts off in some communities. Hearing that the noise levels are high enough to disturb not only the humans around, but also the wildlife, and the birds fly away. All of this needs to be evaluated, and we need to make decisions about whether we want these in our state at all, and if so, where they would be located. And we need local control. Mainly, we need a moratorium right now. Now, Kelly has now recognized that this is actually an issue that people are unhappy about, the idea that these will get snuck into their communities. So now she's saying that she's opposed to them. But let me tell you what she actually did. She signed a bill that allows them to use off-grid power sources.
Right.
What that means is they'll run diesel fuel generators with smokestacks to also contaminate your air while they're contaminating your water and jacking up your electric bills and contaminating you with noise. So she signed that bill, and then she did nothing, provided no leadership on the bill that called for a moratorium, and another bill that provided the kind of guardrails that we wanted in terms of local communities. Provided no leadership on any of this, so we're stuck where we are right now because of her lack of leadership. And of course, now that it feels like a political issue and that she wants to be quote unquote concerned about, she is saying that she's not for them. Don't be fooled. Don't be fooled. Ask her what she did. All right. Well, yes.
So, yeah.
One more question.
I would like to go back to this issue of taxes. And the way we've been cutting taxes on business, we cut the business and profits tax. And we know that as a result of that, they've had to push the burden down onto towns, onto middle-class people, because very wealthy people who pay the significant amount of those taxes are no longer paid. Why did we have to cut their taxes? They said that these people who have millions or hundreds of millions of dollars are going to leave the state if we keep taxing them. In other words,
Where are they gonna go? We're the
well,
lowest.
Texas and Florida, but and the reality is they have that choice. If you know, they have the choice to go somewhere else. But what we're experiencing is young families can't afford to live here. They don't have the choice to live here, and they're leaving here. So I think we just need to say it. If you have $100 million and you don't want to pay your share to help the community prosper, don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Thank you. I'll just tell you this. We're going to build a budget. We're going to build a budget with the revenue we have. We have no choice. I'm elected in November. I need to put forward a budget in 2 months, 2 months later, 3 months later. So we're going to build a budget from the ground up with the revenue we have. And we are going to do that in a responsible way, in a way that prioritizes our values. We will work through that process with good people's heads at the table coming together to actually solve problems. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.